The world turned its eyes toward Islamabad. As missiles rained across the Iranian sky, as bunkers shook and global tensions surged, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif picked up the phone, not with hesitation but with resolve. On the other end was Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, a man navigating the ruins of his nation's nuclear infrastructure and the weight of a people looking for answers. This was no ordinary diplomatic call. This was a declaration, a message, not just to Tehran, but to Washington, to Tel Aviv, to every corner of the world that watched this new escalation unfold with clenched fists and breath held. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's voice, calm but uncompromising, carried the weight of Pakistan's historic position, non-aligned, often cautious but never silent in the face of aggression. And this time, the aggression was unmistakable. The Prime Minister did not use diplomatic euphemisms. He did not dance around the core of the issue. He called it what it was, American aggression. He labeled Israel's actions as unprovoked and unjustified. And he said the words many world leaders feared to utter: these were blatant violations of international law. More than that, they were violations of the very agreements meant to safeguard humanity from nuclear catastrophe. Targeting IAEA-protected sites, Shehbaz Sharif said, is not only reckless but a direct assault on global norms. His words reverberated across ministries and media outlets, unsettling some, empowering others. In the aftermath of the strikes, 3 Iranian nuclear facilities stood damaged: Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz. These were not random targets. These were high-value, deeply embedded components of Iran's nuclear identity. And they were protected under international accords. Or at least, they were supposed to be. But now, those protections lay buried beneath rubble and craters. And Pakistan, often painted as a silent observer in Middle Eastern affairs, chose not to remain silent this time. Prime Minister Sharif's conversation with President Pezeshkian was more than condolence, it was clarity. He expressed heartfelt sorrow for the innocent lives lost. He prayed for the swift recovery of the wounded. But most importantly, he reaffirmed unshakable solidarity with the Iranian people and their leadership. This solidarity was not born of sectarian alignment, nor geopolitical maneuvering. It was born of principle. Because for Pakistan, sovereignty matters. International law matters. And the principle of self-defense, enshrined in every charter from Geneva to New York, is not negotiable. And so, the Prime Minister's statement carried an unmistakable signal to the world: Pakistan stands with Iran's right to defend itself. In a region where alliances are transactional and loyalties often shift with oil prices, that kind of clarity is rare, and dangerous. Dangerous because it challenges the dominant narrative. Dangerous because it exposes the double standards that plague global diplomacy. Dangerous because it reminds the world that even in a polarized landscape, there are still nations willing to speak on principle, not pressure. Shehbaz Sharif's words didn't stop at condemnation. He called for calm, for diplomacy, for the revival of multilateral dialogue. But he didn't let the aggressors off the hook. His condemnation of the strikes was unrelenting. His criticism of the United States was pointed. And his denouncement of Israel's military action, especially its targeting of IAEA-monitored sites, was historic. In the days that followed, global headlines began shifting. Some focused on the humanitarian impact. Others questioned the legality of the strikes. But across social media and civil society in the global south, one quote stood out. "This is not just an attack on Iran. This is an attack on the international system." The sentiment echoed in the streets of Karachi and Cairo, in the mosques of Jakarta, in the halls of the African Union. And as Western analysts tried to decipher Islamabad's strategic calculus, the message was already clear to millions. Pakistan would not be a staging ground. Pakistan would not be a bystander. And most critically, Pakistan would not forget. Indeed, the aftermath of the strikes revealed an avalanche of geopolitical consequences. Rumors spread that Washington had once again approached Islamabad for access to military bases, a replay of Cold War strategy and post-9/11 geopolitics. But this time, Islamabad's mood was different. This was not 2001. The world had changed, and so had Pakistan. Fact-checkers debunked some of the claims, but the underlying anxiety remained. Would Pakistan once again be asked to play the reluctant partner in someone else's war? And would it say yes? Early signs said no. The National Assembly stood in rare unity, echoing Shehbaz Sharif's condemnation. The Foreign Office reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to peaceful regional coexistence. And the public, they stood behind their prime minister. In a twist few had predicted, Pakistan's growing diplomatic clarity led to even more unexpected headlines. In what some called an act of irony, others of satire, Pakistan nominated Donald Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize. The juxtaposition was surreal. On the one hand, a man whose decisions contributed to a regional firestorm, on the other, a nomination for peace. It reflected the absurdity of modern diplomacy, where perception often overrules reality. Yet the symbolism was not lost. Neither was the tension. As airlines rerouted their planes to avoid Middle Eastern airspace, and as the United Nations convened yet another emergency session, the global order seemed to teeter, caught between the rhetoric of restraint and the machinery of escalation. Iran had requested the UN meeting. Pakistan had backed the call. And the question before the world now was stark: would reason prevail? Or would the next missile bury it beneath another mountain? In this fog of war, one voice rang out with unusual clarity, that of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. And his message was simple. Enough. Enough of war games. Enough of illegal strikes. Enough of power politics masked as security policy. This was not just Pakistan speaking. It was the global South. It was the voice of a people who had paid the price of every drone, every base, every deal made in distant capitals. And for once, they weren't whispering. They were roaring.